Alright, so one minute wisdom from the Rebbe for today. So we know that today is the 15th day of Shevat, which is the new year for the trees, as the trees are judged on this day and will be able to get their upcoming new year. Now, in general, the Jewish holidays, the three holidays of the Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sichos, are also divided by the three times of the way we deal with the grain. Pesach is in the springtime when the grain starts to grow properly. Shavuos is Chag HaKatzir, the time that we cut down the grain. And Sichos is the time when we actually bring the grain back into our storehouses. And that's the holidays of the year that we have, the Shalosh Regalim. Now, seemingly, why is everything in Judaism all about the grain? Why are we celebrating the grain so much? What is everything based on the grain? So the explanation is that the Jewish people are actually compared to the grain. As it says in the Pasuk, that the Jewish people are Reishis Tuvasei. We are the beginning of God's crop. We are His grain in a certain sense. As it says, I'll plant him in the ground, which is referring to a soul. As the souls come down and placed in this physical world, even though they come from such great heights, they are placed down here in the ground. That's just like a seed, or a piece of grain, which is planted in the ground. Now, why would someone take a piece of their grain, a good grain that you can use, and they would put it in the ground? Is only because you want to get back much more from planting those grains. And the same is true over here as well. The fact that God took a Jewish soul and sent it down all the way to this low world is because He wants to be able to take back much more. As through the Yerida, through the fact that the Neshama comes down so low, is able to have this Aliyah, to be able to go much higher than ever before. And that has two aspects in it. Just like by the grain. Where on one aspect of the grain is that the grain, in order for it to be able to grow a new piece, it has to totally rot, totally get rid itself of its previous identity before it's able to make a new grain. Same is true by a neshama. The neshama has to totally rot in the sense that it has to become totally selfless, not be about itself, and be fully about God. And that's the way it's able to serve God properly and bring down the proper heights. And so too the second idea. Now the second idea of grain is that when you put it in, it's a lot of work. You have to cry. It's bitter and difficult to plant the grain. But afterwards, you're able to bring it all into the harvest. You're able to bring it back to your home. And therefore, you're much more joyous then. So too, the neshama has to work with a lot of tears, and it's very difficult to serve God down here sometimes. But through the fact that you work hard and you're able to bring in those produce to the house, you're going to be able to serve God with such joy. And this is especially seen by the fruits. As the grain takes a long time to be able to grow. As opposed to the fruits, it goes much quicker. And therefore the fruits are much more enjoyable in a certain sense. And that's the idea of Rosh Hashanah for trees, where today we're able to have a celebration of the Jewish person who is able to serve God. And especially we know Adam Eitz Asada, a man is compared to the tree, which refers to the learning of Torah. As through the learning of Torah in the way that we mentioned before, where a person is totally accepting God's yoke with it, and he totally gives up of his own existence in order to understand the Torah properly and puts in effort, you're going to be able to bring back the produce in such great joy, so much more than ever before, through the fact that you're able to serve God in a proper way. L'chaim, l'chaim.